You're listening to Sax in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sax in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at saxinthebasement.com. So I got a buddy of mine that was on the phone with me this morning, and he said that I need to start a new podcast, which is kind of funny because I just started one called Lamont Unlocked. And I was actually in the village of Lamont just yesterday, interviewing like 5 different people all around the village as they get their first few episodes up. And it's something that kind of features that village. And the Broadcast Basement On Demand Radio Network does podcasts for different villages and suburbs and does Sax in the Basement and produces shows for all kinds of podcasters in the local area. So I thought it was funny, Ed, that somebody was already like, I've got an idea for your next podcast. And the idea was that I do a podcast about what it's like to be a 47-year-old, newly divorced guy on the dating scene. Which, in theory, I got some great stories, but like, I don't want girls that I'm dating or girls that I may date or anybody to listen to these things, right? Like, I told myself, I don't want to do, like, it'd be funny. Like, there's some great stuff that I have to share, but I don't want to do that. And I also don't want to be the guy that's like, if you date him, then he's just going to talk crap about you afterwards. Like, that's wrong. You know, I'll talk crap about my ex-wife because she's garbage, but I won't talk crap about anybody else. But the funny thing is, he tells me his example of something that I had just talked to him about this week. And I was like, that's actually a pretty good story I'd like to share. So since the White Sox, there's not a lot of content.
No, not much going on.
No, but we are going to get into some moves that happened since the last time we talked. And we are going to get into the ridiculous article with the commissioner of baseball trying to push for a salary cap, which I think is hysterical. We are going to get into that stuff today. But I just wanted to share this one story with you because this one doesn't hurt anybody. This one's just ridiculous, right? So first off, everybody keeps asking me, how are you meeting people? And I hate the apps. Like, I signed up for one app. And in fact, there's a girl I'm seeing currently. We've gone on a couple of dates. Very pretty. I met on an app. And the one thing that I was happy about is that she looked like her picture when I met up with her. I was like, oh, and she doesn't seem to be a serial killer, at least yet. All right. So
which is pretty much the bar for any dating app, right?
That's it.
Look like your picture and you're not a serial killer.
That's it. But I hate the app. So when I signed up, this is the first app that I've signed up for. And I got the Hinge one. And the moment I signed up for it, I said, I'll do 1 month subscription. And then I canceled the subscription renewal immediately. I promised myself I'd only do it for a month because I don't normally use them. I like going to like singles events. I like going speed dating. That's an awful lot of fun. The last girl that I dated for about 4 or 5 months. Okay, beautiful. Little 4'9" Puerto Rican girl. I met her speed dating. Speed dating's more my style. I'm a talker, right? Like, I got to get in front of you.
You? No.
Yeah, I get in front of you. I use the personality. You give me 6 minutes, I'm getting results. I think the last speed dating thing I did, there were 11 women that I met and 5 of them picked me. Speed dating's my wheelhouse. So I don't use the apps, all right? But after I got this Hinge app and after this one girl reached out to me who looked like her pictures and is lovely, I had already said I'm getting rid of this app, so I haven't used the thing. And the other day I get a notification that somebody wants to match up with me. And of course you're going to look at that, right? Like, I'm not actively looking right now.
Your curiosity is what it is, yeah.
Right. My phone says somebody thinks I'm good looking. Let's go see what it is, right? So I open it up. Now, just to kind of give you an idea of what my page looks like on Hinge, I'm the kind of person who wants to be honest. First of all, I only date one girl at a time. And secondly, I'm brutally honest about myself. Like, I don't have any pictures of me when I was younger. Like, you'll see people, it's like, you're like, well, that's a wide array of pictures that range over the last 20 years. Like, what do you look like now? Because we're going to meet eventually. So why are we just trying to put up something fake? Like, the girl that I met off the app, her first thing she said to me was like, you look just like your pictures. Like, she was shocked about it because I put up whatever's in the last 6 months. So in the last 6 months, if you're a guy and you don't take a lot of pictures, because I don't know what guys take pictures of each other, right, Ed? Like, guys don't take pictures of themselves. We're not like at some like event. We're like, ooh, let's all get around and take 20 shots. That's kind of a girl thing. I don't take a lot of pictures of me. So all of my pictures were taken by the last girl that I went out with. Every single picture over the last 6 months or so. They're the most recent ones, but they were all taken by her. So she's in one or two of them, and I don't care. Like, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make you believe that I've never been on a date before. I'm 47. It's like the guys that go out there and they're meeting girls and they're like, well, I assume that she's just been waiting for me for the last 20 years, even though she has 3 children and 2 divorces. Like, we've all gone out on dates. At this age, we've all been around the block a few times. That's what modern dating is, especially when you're my age and you're divorced. So I didn't think it was weird to put up on my profile a couple of pictures that actually had the last girl that I went out with, because they're the most recent pictures. So the person that reaches out to me on the app, her initial contact to me as I bring the thing up is to start yelling at me immediately.
Okay, we're off to a really great start here. What was she yelling at you about?
First of all, she was a gymnast, which was intriguing. Like, all the pictures, like she's doing like all these weird moves and she's got her leg over her head and everything else like that. But she's an angry little gymnast, because the angry little gymnast right away is like, how are you on this app when you've got a girl in your pictures? And I wrote back very, very simply. I'm like, these are my most recent pictures, and this is the person I most recently was going out with. So she appears in 1 or 2 of the pictures. Not all of them, just 1 or 2 of the pictures. And immediately, the police officer of Hinge just starts firing off messages about like how I'm a dirtbag, like I'm clearly in a relationship and trying to cheat on this girl on the Hinge app. And I'm like I responded once. I was like, well, I would have to be the stupidest person in the world to do that, to put the picture of the person I'm currently seeing in my app and then go out there and actively do it. Like, I'd have to be a complete jerk. But maybe that's what the scene is like. But for the next day or so, Ed, just randomly, and I eventually disconnected, but I was just intrigued by how angry this person was with me, that they took the time while I'm sitting on this app and I'm not even active on it to just constantly write me angry things about the fact that there was pictures of me with somebody else inside of the app. And that right there in a nutshell is what it's like to date at this age.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
There is so much crazy out there.
So much anger, so much pain, so much hurt, so much bitterness.
It's crazy. There is so much. I mean, like, I'm not saying everyone, but man, there's a level of nuts out there that's kind of floating around, right? Like, there are some you're like, I can't believe you're single. And there are some you're like, I get it. I understand it. There's a reason. You're pretty and you're crazy. Like, it is a thing. It is an absolute thing. It's amazing. And it kind of brought me to an idea that I had to wrap this back over to Socks in the Basement. I mentioned earlier I do the speed dating thing, right? And some people always laugh at me. They're like, really? You go do that? It's so much fun. It's a riot. I mean, it really is. Some of them are run well and some of them are run really poorly, but it's so much fun. You just move from table to table and you're like, hi. And you just like, you kind of do your thing and you have a good time. And if you get picked, that's great. And if you don't, you're like, whatever. I had a nice conversation and a couple of drinks and I was out, right? It's better than drinking alone, Ed. And it's better than the stupid apps.
Right. Well, it actually sounds like a lot of fun. It really does.
Oh, it is. It's better than drinking alone, and it's better than the stupid apps. And it's not the same out there anymore. Like, my married friends think you just go get your picture on an app. And instantly, my 47-year-old bud is just pulling 25 to 29-year-olds that just want to hook up. That's what they all think. Like, all my married friends, that's what they think this is. Because they're unhappy in their marriage. So they're kind of like, oh, man, if I could just be like Chris and be divorced. He's probably just got an app and he's just bringing them in 2 at a time.
Right. Like you've got reservations that are being made on these apps.
Right.
Like,
Right. That's what they believe is how this works. But it's not. It's just a big minefield of just goofiness. And that's why when you do meet somebody who's halfway normal, you're like, it's kind of cool because it's a weird thing. But the speed dating thing is a lot of fun. And I went and I looked out of curiosity about the amount of them that were in my area on the South Side. And amazingly enough, there are barely any. Like, this is a North Side, deep suburbs thing that's happening. Like, I've found that that's where I end up going. Downtown, North Side, deep suburbs when I've gone and done it. And I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool to do one of these things like with just White Sox fans? Like a prerequisite.
White Sox fan speed dating?
White Sox fan speed dating, right? For all the single men and the single ladies. White Sox fans speed dating. So I'm putting a claim on it right now because somebody's going to go and do it now. But we're going to do one of these things. I've already started talking to a couple of different locations about it. I haven't talked to everybody who would be available at it, but I've watched how these run now. They're not hard to run. And I was like, wouldn't it be kind of an incredible thing in a boring season if Sox in the Basement brought out Sox in the Basement speed dating?
It would be amazing. It would be, and here's why. Because if we cannot find love with this team, at least we can find love with each other.
Right. That's the whole idea. This is going to be one of those crap seasons, right? Like, this is going to be one of those things. Like, we talked about it last week. I don't think they're losing 100 games.
Right. They're going to be mediocre at best.
Let's make it interesting. And let's get the Sox fans off the apps, because you're going to run into the crazy ballerina at some point. She's out there. She's lurking. She's judging you.
You don't even know yet. You haven't even posted a picture or opened up the app.
No, I don't even want to look at it. I deleted the app. I deleted the app off my phone. I was so creeped out by the one that just
I know,
searched
but
me out
I'm
to
just
yell at
saying,
me.
for anybody listening
Right.
who hasn't even used the app,
Right.
there are people out there judging you right now.
Judging you.
You don't know them.
There is some judging going on.
They don't know you, but they're judging you.
They are judging you. So, like, to me, this seems like something I'd like to do. So stay tuned for it. This is a thought that I had. I had this thought this week. It came from the craziness on the app, from the girl I wasn't even looking for, who reached out to me to specifically just tell me that I was a jerk because she was judging me. And then it came from me sitting there saying, I hate these things. This is why I had already said I was canceling it. And the thing that always worked for me before was the speed dating. We should do White Sox speed dating. So that's it's coming. It's in the planning stages. It's something that had been rattling around in my brain for months now. You know, like I would love to host it. Like, I'm not even going to participate. I'm just going to host the thing. I just want to watch it happen, you know, because it is a blast to happen. You just don't show up if you're like involved with somebody. Don't do that. Don't be a weirdo.
No, don't make it weird.
Don't do that.
Don't make
okay?
it weird.
Don't bring your kids there either. That's weird too. I've seen that once. It's weird.
Oh, that is a little weird.
Sox in the Basement listeners, for exterior windows, doors, patio doors, and storm doors, look no further than Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest, where there are no high-pressure sales. They don't come to you and make a mess in your home with a dingy example window. You go see them in their big, beautiful showroom. See everything they have to offer right there in front of your face. Get a good look at what you're buying and ask questions. There's an owner on site in the showroom. There's an owner on site when they do the install, where they use their own installers and don't farm out the work. They've been doing it that way in Oak Forest since 1985, with all major brands custom made and no stock items for a perfect fit. Window and Door Superstore of Oak Forest is located a half block east of 159th and Ridgeland at 6280 159th Street. See more at windowdooroakforest.com.
So speaking of crazy and sloppy seconds in a roundabout way.
Wow.
What is with the Angels?
The Angels want all the White Sox retreads. They got Tim Anderson on a minor league deal. Guys left over from this thing. Yoan Moncada just signs a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Angels.
Yolmer Sanchez.
Yeah, him too. They're taking everything left over from the White Sox, and it makes perfect sense because they're a trash organization. Like, they got Mike Trout and they've just wasted him. They had Shohei and they couldn't do anything there, and now he's on the Dodgers and he's a world champion. Like, and they had the inside track for Ohtani, remember? Like, that was the only team he wanted to play for. That was it. There was no competition for Ohtani. He was coming and going to be an Angel. Look what was handed to them. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in a major market. Like, we make fun of Jerry Reinsdorf for sucking as an owner because he does. But then you look at what the Angels have done. It's brutal. And they at least here, like I always tell people, you think it's worst with your team, and sometimes it is. I mean, look at our record last year. But at least my front office looks like they're proactively trying to change the way things are done. Is ripping some things down to the studs, is changing the international market, and the general manager seems to understand the way that the owner of the team operates. And is like, okay, he's really not going to spend any money. I'm going to throw everything this year into these other things that I can improve. Like, at least he seems to get that, right? Whereas with the Angels, what is the benefit of that? Like, Anderson, I don't think even makes it to the majors. There's a reason he got a minor league deal. He lost it. Whatever it is that he had, he lost. All right. Yolmer Sanchez is not a good player.
He's still trading off the one Gold Glove that he won.
Right. But Yoan Moncada for 1 year and $5 million. I could see why somebody takes a swing at that, because if he's healthy, he's worth it. Like, if he's healthy
at that price, he's definitely worth it for the Angels. Now, I don't know why Chucky Robinson is also on their 40-man, but
wow. I mean, they got everybody. They're just gathering the White Sox. It's like last year when all we wanted were Kansas City Royals players. Like, that's kind of how it feels for the Angels right now. Like, Moncada was not worth what he was going to make with the White Sox. Wasn't it like $30 million or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, he was very expensive for a guy with a bad injury history who had, generally speaking, underperformed expectations.
He's going to make $10 million for being bad at baseball. 5 from the White Sox on the buyout and 5 from the Angels now. And the $10 million, like if you give him 1 year, $10 million, and you believe he's going to be healthy, he might be worth that.
He could still be replacement or slightly above.
Yeah, he might get you 2-3 wins above replacement. He might be worth that. All right. So, I mean, like, that's a great deal. That's the one deal for the Angels that's actually, I'm like, it's not that bad. He's not a bad acquisition for 1 year, $5 million. And the reason that Moncada is only taking 1 year and 5 is because, again, he can take a little less because he got the buyout money from the team, and he needs to prove himself again. Like, think about that. This is a guy whose potential was so incredible at the time that he was given the long-term deal that the Sox actually believed he may be worth all that money by the time he gets to this age. He was going to be a middle-of-the-order hitter, superstar on this team. And now he's got to start all over again on the Angels on the island of misfit toys out there in L.A., and he's got to try to figure out how to make himself more valuable for the 2026 season. But I do like the deal for the Angels.
Yeah, I don't really wish Yoan Moncada ill. It got to a point with him, just like it started to get to a little bit of a point with Tim Anderson, and like we get to a point with a lot of prospects from the last rebuild and a lot of guys from the last rebuild where the hype train and what they were able to do never really matched up. Mm-hmm. And Tim Anderson was, yes, he was winning batting titles and he was competing for one, but everybody who looked at the deeper stats knew that there was a little bit of magic behind it, and nobody was really quite sure exactly how he was pulling it off. So you knew he was going to come back down to earth at some point. And for TAA, with not being a plus defender at shortstop, at some point he goes from, a guy who's one of the faces of the MLB, a face of the White Sox, and a star, to a guy that is very much on the fringe of being an everyday player. So it didn't make sense to invest a lot of money in him when the floor was about to fall out from under him, seemingly. And it did eventually, right? Moncada, he came out, he had the one really great year in the Happy Fun Ball era, and he's never really lived up to being the number one prospect in baseball, which is what he was when the White Sox traded for him. But it doesn't mean he's a bad player. I mean, if Chris Getz had announced he brought back Yoan Moncada for an additional $5 million or the $3 million that the Cubs offered him, apparently, I would be sitting there saying, like, okay, well, they just don't believe in any of the other third basemen, so they're going to give Yoan an opportunity to do something. I just couldn't stomach him at $25 million because he's never lived up to, he's not a star. And that's just it. That's just the reality. He's not a star. The way we talk about Andrew Vaughn as being a guy that's just not a star. He's not lived up to the draft hype. And that's where this White Sox organization has been, though, for so long, is look at the shiny jewels we've got down in the minor leagues. Look at these top-end prospects. Look at how great these guys are. And then they show up and it's a little underwhelming compared to what you were expecting to happen. That's why the thought that Colson Montgomery is automatically the starting shortstop this year is kind of cringy because, frankly, he hasn't done enough.
And it's also cringy that Jacob Amaya's back on the team if he's really like this. Well, if Colson doesn't work out, this guy's going to stand it short. Like there's some cringy there. Are they as cringy as the Angels, though?
No, because the Angels are also running out the corpse of Kyle Hendricks for
they're a mess. like put them on the short list of teams I'm glad my team is not. Now time for the Sox Nerd. Dave Marin puts all those tidbits up on the scoreboard at the rate and is with us each and every weekend here on Sox in the Basement all year long. And he's brought to you by the Village of Lamont. Want to experience a downtown with real history, great eats and drinks, and green spaces filled with adventure? Visit the Village of Lemont. Shop, dine, drink, explore, and see everything they have going on this weekend and beyond. And check out the brand new Lemont Unlocked podcast at LemontDowntown.com. Nerd, what do you got for me?
Chris, in introducing me last week, you said I may be using this platform as scoreboard prep for the fast-approaching season. You are correct, sir. And this week, let's do that with a look, Sox nerd style, at Josh Rojas. He was kind of an under-the-radar free agent signing the Sox landed on January 8th. Don't be surprised if you see this guy hitting any place in the order while playing almost any place on the field. In 6 seasons in the big leagues, the 30-year-old Rojas has played 9 positions, including pitcher and DH. Last year for Seattle, the Arizonan played 9 positions. The only places Rojas has not played are center field and catcher. He has made the most appearances, 282, at third base, but he hits the best by far while playing right field. In 41 games there, which is a decent sample size, Rojas is slashing .331, .406, and .528 with 4 homers and 13 RBIs. As a third baseman, Rojas is at .245, .320, and .354. Another interesting stat I mind on Rojas' splits has to do with the batting order. Rojas is way more productive in the first third of the lineup than anywhere else. Batting first, second, and third, Rojas has hit .260 with a .335 on base percentage. In spots 4 through 9, those numbers drop to .229 and .333. By the way, Rojas has made at least one start in every spot in the batting order in his career. Rojas has had tremendous success against the Cubs and in Chicago, where he is hitting .348 in 12 games. The best contest of Rojas' career came on May 20th, 2022, when he launched 3 consecutive homers in Arizona's 10-6 win over the Cubs at Wrigley Field. The so-called friendly confines aren't the only place in Chicago where Rojas has thrived. Rojas had a monster series at Guaranteed Rate Field in 2023, going 7 for 13 with a homer as the Mariners took 2 of 3 from the Sox in August. That, however, was not Rojas' most noteworthy achievement at 35th and Shields. On August 28, 2022, he was the last out ever recorded by a team managed by Tony La Russa. Rojas was nailed at the plate to end the 9th after the go-ahead run had scored in Arizona's 3-2 win in what turned out to be the last game ever managed by Tony La Russa. Before I get to my zinger, I remind you that gems like these and long-form pieces are on my blog, which you can link to at soxinthebasement.com. My zinger? In honor of the 20th anniversary of the World Champions, I'm going to zing frequently about that team, throwing out some gems you may not know about the 2005 Sox. Did you know that the pitcher who led the 2005 White Sox with 70 relief innings was the long-forgotten Luis Vizcaino? Go win some beers with that one, Sox fans. That's it, Chris. Probably more than you wanted to know about Josh Rojas, Wrigley Field, TLR, and Luis Vizcaino.
Before we get out of here, I want to talk about Rob Manfred and a story that's going around this week where the commissioner of baseball, one of the worst commissioners in the history of the game, who's done so much to prove to people that he doesn't actually like baseball, says that he's getting emails from fans concerned about the sport's lack of a salary cap after what the Dodgers did, spending money and going out and getting guys. You don't need to read the rest of the article. You just have to read the first paragraph. That the commissioner of baseball claims that fans are emailing him and want a salary cap. And the first thing that popped into my brain was, remember when Rick Hahn was trying to tell everybody that would listen that when he meets White Sox fans, they think he's doing a good job? Remember that last year when it was all falling apart? I talk to White Sox fans and they think I'm doing a wonderful job. They get what we're doing, because he was talking to like those people that they're going to buy season tickets no matter what. They spend half of the game in the luxury box club eating the roast beef and having a cocktail, and they're not even watching the game. And they're always going to support the team. They're rich as sin. And then he's walking around up there in the luxury suites, and those people are telling him that they love him because they want to take a picture with him. Remember that? This reminds me of that. Like, how many emails did you get, Rob? 2, 3, 10 maybe? This is one of the funnier things in the world to me when somebody sits there and says, I'm getting emails from people who are saying that we should make this big rule change. No, you're not. And if you are, it's not enough that you would actually enact something like this. You know, baseball is beautiful because of the fact that if you really want to, in a free market, build a team, you can do it. And any owner that wants a salary cap should sell his team. Honest to goodness. If you can't right now go out in Major League Baseball with the profit sharing and the market sizes and the way that you can benefit, we talked about this. The money that comes from television, the money comes from merchandise, the money that comes from, if you're a small market team, you're getting money from big market teams. You see teams at every level of spending have different levels of success and failures. Those that understand what market they're working in and what their owner can afford do well generally, and those that don't understand it fail. And teams that could spend money, and trust me, the White Sox could spend money. The White Sox draw when the White Sox win. The owner doesn't want to spend, though, until you show up at the park. He doesn't spend money to make money. He spends money after you've given it to him. And then he generally doesn't spend as much as he probably should. If he would have put a winner out there, they'd be drawing 3 million fans a year. And you can't tell me otherwise. Because I remember what it was like after they won the World Series. I remember. Anybody who was around
Standing room
remembers.
only. Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of studies. We talked about it before. That famous book, Scorecasting, that goes through different things and says Yankee fans and White Sox fans are tied more closely to the results of the team and what they will spend on than any other fan base in Major League Baseball. The Yankees understand it. That's why they go out and spend money. And they get people in the ballpark. And they make a lot of money. And they've got their own network and all that other stuff. And this other owner can't figure it out. So it's not the salary cap that's hurting Major League Baseball teams. It's poor ownership. That's the problem. So that's why I laugh at this article, and I laugh at Rob Manfred saying, I'm getting emails, people saying we might need to get a salary cap. No, that's not the problem. And anybody who thinks a salary cap solves this, I think is being way too short-sighted, Ed.
Well, and salary cap works in the NFL because you can have a top-heavy team in the NFL, and what you can end up doing is spending a ton of money on a quarterback and a running back or a wide receiver, a couple of position players, and just being ridiculous with them. And then it hurts the rest of the roster, right? You have to have 53 other guys. So by forcing the owners to really budget, you make sure that everybody sort of gets a fair shake, right? That there's money left over for veterans who are not just going to be replaced year in and year out by draft choices and non-roster invitee, the undrafted free agents and stuff like that. So it's a little bit of protection for a violent game where people are already having short careers. In basketball, it makes a lot of sense because we already have super teams. They've figured out how to do it. But when you're really talking about a roster of 5 to 10 players, right, you could absolutely max out. And 1 or 2 teams could just absolutely own the entire NBA. So you sort of need to do that to level the playing field. In baseball, that's not really the case because honestly, even though the Dodgers spend a ton of money, one of the things that the Dodgers still have to do is they still have to produce players out of their farm system. And it's not always the case that they buy all of their pitchers or that they buy all of their position players. I mean, if you look at them, last year they ran with James Outman as their center fielder, and he was terrible, right? They didn't go out and necessarily fill up their outfield with guys that could absolutely, murder the ball and were the greatest defenders or anything like that. They'd have moved Mookie Betts around in the infield. He's been an outfielder for most of his career. So the Dodgers are just kind of smart with how they do things. But when it comes time to give Shohei Ohtani money and steal him away from the Angels, they are willing to spend that. The Yankees are kind of the same way. When it comes time to get Juan Soto, they'll make the trade, right? When it comes time for them to get a high-end player, they're willing to spend the money. But you always look at their roster and they surround them by guys that they've developed, or, some homegrown talent or some lesser talent, right? And they just have a few really, really good players and they take care of them financially. A salary cap isn't going to make the Pittsburgh Pirates a better organization. A salary cap is not going to make Jerry Reinsdorf spend any money. That's where it is. If you want to have a salary floor in Major League Baseball, I'm for that. Because then you can sit there and say, okay, based on where payrolls ought to be in this marketplace, everybody should be above this line.
I worry about the salary floor because you saw what the A's did this offseason, right? They just started spending, but I don't know if that money was spent well. If you tell a billionaire you have a salary floor, And he doesn't like the fact that he has a salary floor. He's going to just go right to the floor. He's going to go to the floor. He's going to say, you can't be mad at me because I'm above the floor. And it doesn't mean it's going to be spent right. So I don't know if that fixes Major League Baseball either, a floor. Like, I mean, I don't know how it hurts it, but I don't know if it helps it. You know what I'm saying? What I would love for baseball is regulation like soccer. I would love that. I would love it where if they give AAA clubs, I'm not kidding here. Like, I think it would be amazing. Give the ability for baseball teams to move up and baseball teams have to go down and start relegating bad teams. Even if it meant the White Sox could get relegated, it would tell an owner that I'm going to lose a ton of money if I don't put a competitive team out there. Start it off where, like, if you're in the bottom 3 2 years in a row, you get relegated. Like, make it hard to get relegated. Make it so that, like, okay, we all have bad years. We all have bad years, but you do 2 in a row where you end up as one of the bottom 2 or bottom 3 in Major League Baseball. You're out of the majors. And you can earn your way back. You watch. Everybody will be competitive every year. Everybody will be competitive every year because now their money is at stake. Now they know they'd make less money. Everybody will be competitive. Some sort of relegation. 3 years, 3 years, 3 years where you end up in the bottom 3 or bottom 5 or something like that. Make it so that teams are afraid to just be mediocre all the time. And that owners know that their investment will be lost if they don't continue to invest within it. Like, I would like that more than anything.
I'm willing to accept down years. I'm willing to accept off seasons where you can't get your targets.
Right. Injuries rip you apart, stuff like that. Like, I don't want you to be relegated for that. So we won't do it exactly like soccer, right? We won't do it like that. But you could have it where, like, if you have consistently for 2 to 3 years placed in this really bottom rung area, then relegation occurs. And I think that alone would serve better than a floor. That'd serve better than the salary floor. Because what you're doing is you're telling the billionaire who made their money somehow, right, that your property is going to be worth far less. If you and that would be the other thing you could sit there and say.
You lose all the revenue sharing. You lose all the TV deals.
Right. You get relegated or must sell.
Right. Or it's the must sell.
Or you must sell. You're relegated or you must sell. An incentive for the owners would be the only way that the whole thing would work. It'll never happen, of course. Like, this is all pie in the sky crazy stuff that I'm talking about. But I mean, like, if you really wanted to find a way to make owners spend responsibly and be held accountable to the fan bases, to the team, to the history of the team, to Major League Baseball, to making sure that they're paying fairly to Major League Baseball players, that would be the thing. Have something in there that essentially devalues their massive investment, which is their team, if they're consistently bad at baseball. If they're consistently getting poor results, that'd be the only thing that would ever fix it. Again, never happens. It would never happen because the owners have far too much control in what's going on in Major League Baseball. I mean, it's the cartel, essentially, with a commissioner who doesn't even like baseball and keeps changing all the rules and really just answers to them. It's not like Kennesaw Mountain Landis is out there now telling the owners, I'm the commissioner, I'm here for life, and I do whatever I want to. That went away.
Yeah, but Chris, what if we email Rob Manfred all these ideas?
Well, who knows? I guess we could email him. Again, that's so ridiculous.
That'll help, right?
Listen to me. If you don't believe that it's a big giant cartel and none of these owners are held accountable, then explain to me why John Fisher, after everything he did with the A's, was put on the 8-man executive council this week. Because he's an owner that the rest of the owners want to listen to because he's doing such a great job out there.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always on soxinthebasement.com.